Okie dokie. Hello. So week 3. Welcome to week 3 of our cartooning workshop drawing session thing through Gawler Youth. So week 3, we are looking at movement and what type of movement we'll put into cartoons and how we'll add movement to our cartoons. And I'll even talk a little bit, I should probably talk a little bit at the start about why we add a little bit of movement. This is all a rehash of what we talked about today in the Tuesday night Zoom session. But if you missed it, or if you want to come back to this information, maybe you missed out on these sessions, or you just want to come back to it, here they are. So one thing I have noticed in the last videos I've uploaded is I've gone about it pretty slowly, and these are only meant to be 10-15 minute videos, but have been going on for about 20 minutes to half an hour, I think, so far. I think, thinking about them, they're like, at least, I think one of them is at least 20 minutes. I'm going to try and be a little bit quicker this time. So you can stop and you can pause and you can figure it out. You can pause the video and rewind whenever you want. But I'll try and talk a little bit quicker this video. I'm not helping myself at the start here, am I? But okay, so as with every session, we start with squiggles. I'm just gonna. So if you are joining just for this session, I prompt you to get your squiggle on. And if you don't know what we do for our squiggles, we go ahead and we draw a little squiggle, just like I'm doing down the bottom of my screen here. And then we try and see if we can turn it into anything. Turn the squiggle into a drawing. So I probably haven't done myself any good because I want to come back to this list in a second because I want to write something down before I start. But while you're cartooning, I'll do that. And for now, I'll just do a quick drawing, show you what I mean. So this started off as a squiggle, and now it's a crocodile. Well, if a crocodile looked like this. But it doesn't need to be anything special. I say this every time we do it in class and in these sessions. Doesn't need to be special, just let your imagination go wild. And that's all this start of the session is all about. It's just letting yourself have a little bit of fun and know that every cartoon you do is always a little bit of fun. And and yeah, just let your imagination go wild, and don't worry if you can't replicate what's going on in your head on the page. Just give it a go. So what I'm going to write in while you're doing your squiggles is just in here what this video is. Why do we add movement? Why do we? So as always, I'm going to put little timestamps if you want to skip over a certain part in the description, just to make it a little bit easier. And on this channel, we don't really, well, on these videos, we don't really care too much about the likes or anything like that. Subscribe if you want to see more. Still 5 more weeks left. So 5 more videos, and there's obviously this one and 2 before it if you want to see more on my channel. Yeah, let's get into it. So you can do your squiggles, you can pause the video if you want to, pause the video whenever you want to, and catch up or just rehash what you want to. But why do we add movement to our drawings? So in cartooning or comic books or whatever you're drawing for, we'll add a little bit of movement to our drawings just because the difference between this, if we wave, and the waving like this and waving like this. In this drawing that I've just done very quickly, it's just a hand. I mean, we can add context in writing and what we do in our comics or whatever we draw and say that it's waving. But this, without my writing, is a lot clearer, at least to me, and it seems to be working with anyone else that uses this technique, is it shows a lot better that that hand is moving from side to side. From here to here to here to here. And cartoonists, they'll use this technique as well. Yeah, we use it to convey the message better, just like what we're doing with all of our comics, is just conveying what we want to the audience. And knowing these little techniques helps us convey the idea of movement, like when we want to draw someone running or jumping or waving or throwing a ball, all of that stuff. And it can also make your drawings more dynamic and more fun. So yeah, that's why do we. Then, so one of the techniques we'll use is just like this hand. I'll bring that back up again. Is kind of showing the A to B from one place to another and maybe back again, or whatever it is. So whenever an animator wants to show waving, they might highlight this middle bit, this middle hand, and they'll then, to show that it's movement, they'll then draw this hand, but they'll keep this hand lightly in the background. And that kind of, it creates a trailing effect just like you see in real life. So when something moves here, like if you wave to yourself in the mirror, and it might sound a bit silly, but if you wave really, really fast in the mirror, you look at your hand, it almost looks like your hand is blurring and it is in different places all at the same time. And that's what animators have picked up on over time, is figuring out how to make it look like they're in several places at the same time, even though they're not, and it shows motion a bit better. Yeah, so one way we might do that is the way I've done it with the hands, or we might draw, let's go with a hand. I'm going to draw a not too funky hand. This hand is going this direction, a bit like this, whatever, nothing too crazy. And then what they might do is they'll remove little bits or make this side a little bit wonky, and we'll make some trailing parts of the hand, like the hand is trailing off where it used to be. It's almost creating the blurred effect that we saw in the mirror and it looks like it's kind of moving away from all those blurred lines. Of course, you can do this differently, or you can have a try at this, and you can complement that with the other way we did it just before, the other way I was saying. Like that's come from there and this has come from there. And you can use all of these different components all together and give it a go. That's from one place to another and moving in directions. What else did we cover? I have a lot of layers of stuff that we followed. Yep, so this is a mess, but so we covered this is a version of that. So this is a version of that, what we just talked about. This is what we just talked about. And then what we want to do when we're doing this, so A to B, when we're moving from one place to another, let's talk about the when we do these trailing effects or trailing places when they're both in A and B at the same time. We always want to follow the movement that it's taking. So if I draw my hand, another hand, we're doing lots of sign language today. Silly joke, sorry. But there we've got another hand. If we are going, let's add a whole arm to this. So here's a little arm attached to a little person down here. I'm not going to draw his whole body, just give him a collar, neck, maybe another arm, and he's waving. So this is our pivot point from, just like when you wave your arm, you're going to kind of move that joint there. So when we wave our hand, we're not going to draw our second trailing hand here, because that would mean that this boy has moved sideways. Maybe we'll do the trailing hand that way if he's running. So maybe he's running and he's running this way, and this is our trailing hand. And that's why it's moving in a straight line behind him. But when we're doing a trailing hand for him waving, we want to follow this line here at our second hand. I'm going to do this very roughly. He's got his other hand. And then we can trail between here. Just like in this little drawing here that I've done for A and B, to A to B. We want to follow from A, so A is far away and B is here. So imagine there's two people here. There's one person and he's just throwing the ball, something like that. He's just thrown this ball all the way back here, and this person up here is catching it. He's got an oven mitt for a hand. Oh well, that's all right. We understand, don't we? Hopefully. he's catching it over here. So what we want to do is we want to figure out where has that gone. So for this one, our ball has kind of traveled like, if I can draw it properly, a bit like that. So we're not going to draw a trail from here to here. Maybe he has thrown it really fast and it is able to do that. But for ours, we're going to give it a little bit of a trail that goes like this. And it's not going to come out from here unless you want it to make it look like smoke. We're just going to act like there's a ball here, there's a ball here, and there's a ball here, there's a ball here, and we're just following where that ball exactly was. And that's kind of that's what we follow. Just like with this pivot point arm, we follow exactly behind where it's come from. And fast and slow. So just like we were talking about there, I'll redraw. So fast and slow, just to help myself in editing. Fast and slow is what we're talking about now. So let me tidy up my page. I'm probably still going to do a 20-minute video, but we tried, didn't we? Fast and slow. So as we go faster, so you might notice that if you wave your hand kind of slowly, there's a little bit of a trail behind it, but not much. And then when you wave it really, really fast, or you just swing it really fast, there's a long trail. So the way we do that, so when something's traveling really fast, so we've got two balls like this, and this one's traveling really fast, so we're going to draw a long trail, and then this one's not traveling too fast. So if I draw this a bit like this, as if it's like a comet, this is a comet that's moving really, really fast, and here's a comet that's kind of, he's having a happy time. There's a happy comet, and he's moving quite slow. Both of them are moving this way, both with their trails exactly behind where exactly they were. And yeah, so so this one's moving faster and this one's moving slower. And when something's moving really fast, maybe not a comet because it's a rock and it's less bendable, but when you move really fast, just like in those, if you ever see a video of someone jumping out of a plane, they're going to do a skydive, all the skin goes to the back of their face kind of peels back to the back of their head. And not quite peels, but you get what I mean, hopefully. Or if you throw a tennis ball, you might see a tennis ball, when you put a tennis ball still, this looks a bit like that. When you throw a tennis ball fast, the air is still the same size, but it just stretches. It flattens out and stretches. So, and then when it hits a wall, of course, hits a brick wall. Let's put our brick wall here. Brick wall, a bit like that. When it hits the brick wall, it's going to flatten out and then spring back. It's going to become normal again. So when we draw something moving fast, the reason it does this is because it's almost like when you throw it normal, but as soon as it starts picking up speed, it wants to become like an arrow. So it can just shoot through the air and the air goes either side of it. So here's our tennis ball. But it kind of does this, and then the air pushes back to where it wants to be. So it ends up looking a bit like this. And then when we add our trail, we can make it look really, really fast compared to this one, which would be going really, really slow because it's maintaining the same shape. Now, final topic, little additions, and the thing that you might do the most when you're drawing just about anything. And I drew myself a little bit of a puppy dog because this is one of the things that we talked about just at the end, is little things like adding the little bit of slobber at the end of this dog's tongue, like he's just flopped it out of his mouth, and there's been a little bit of loose saliva that's just dropped off, and there's little raindrops dropping off. Or if I draw a ship, I've got a ship, something like that. It's a boat on the sea. It's a little bit wonky, but that's all right. We've got our boat. That's a good enough boat. You'll get what I mean. And we're in a very rocky, stormy sea. So when the boat hits the front, when it hits the water that it's going to, when it hits the water, it sprays up. The water sprays up. So we might add some droplets and water crashing off different directions and different things like that, almost like adding these little bits here. So see where I'm pointing here? So almost like we're adding droplets. So imagine a droplet is a ball of water with a trail behind it, and we're adding lots of different water droplets going in all these different directions. And the same with the dog. Yeah, and you can simplify all of these things. So if we drew a tennis racket. Let's say it's a tennis racket, something like that. Tennis balls hit it, so we've swung. So we'll add some little bit of lines, just like over here, but instead of just drawing the whole tennis racket again, we just draw some little lines, and then we draw some lines like it's tennis balls hit it. We draw a big flat tennis ball, and then we can add some little lines showing the tennis ball went over here and it's moving fast. We can add these little lines, or we can just leave it like these little lines. And all of that comes together once we've finished. And this was kind of a funky draw at the end. We did a little bit of a drawing at the end for someone who suggested it. And we drew a dancing horse that kind of incorporated everything we talked about. And I will leave that there. And it's just a funny thing that we did. And you can try and do the things we learned this week. And hopefully this wasn't, well, it's probably about a 20-minute video, but we tried. All the things will be in the description. Subscribe if you want to see more. And hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah, for now, see you later.